Alright guys, so today is part 2 of Storytelling Thursday. Alright, on this one, I was actually on Bob Hall Pier, and I was using a Zabinki rig, which is a leader system that has little artificial jigs on it, and a lot of times what we'll do is we'll add a piece of perch or a piece of fish bite on it to catch bait. Well, there's also a spot on Bob Hall Pier called Creature Corner. And what it is it's off on the back right side. Normally what happens is that's also a very good corner to go catch bait. Normally we sit out there and we'll toss a little rod with some bait because we're watching our kingfish rigs right there in the front handrail, or the redfish rigs that we're got up in the front. So I was out there one day and I put on a little piece of shrimp. I mean, I'm talking about the size of my nail on each of the hooks, and I toss it out. So I'm sitting there, and next thing I know, the line goes, and you start, as the line was cutting through the water, bubbles were coming up and everything. I mean, this thing was burning off. So I'm sitting there using a little Corrado D with like 12-pound test. So it's going, the reel starts spinning off and stuff like that. So I run to the front handrail, it goes to the left side of the pier. I go to the left side of the pier, it comes back to the right. And then it goes back to the left, and I was like, Jesus, what do I have on here? And then finally it comes up, and it's like a 5.5-foot blacktip. And I was like, everybody's looking at me, they're like, dude, you got a Zabinki rig. I was like, I know, I don't even know how it's still on the hook. So finally we get the net down. I get it into the net, I pull it up, and the dimple right here is where the hook was. Meaning, I've opened the mouth like that to see where the hook was at, and it was sitting right here in that little dimple. The hook hadn't even penetrated. That's like the softest part of the jaws of the shark's mouth, is right in there in that little dimple. It's real soft skin. But the hook was so small, it wasn't even able to penetrate it. It was sitting like perfect right there. And somehow, some way, the shark never turned into the angle to get his teeth on the line. So I was able to land a 5.5-foot blacktip using a piece of shrimp like that on a Zabinki rig. Talk about blown away. I mean, that was a fight, because 12-pound test line Corrado D as well. I mean, that, I don't know how I landed it, but I did. So it was pretty cool. So, and the reason why it's called Creature Corner is because that corner, no matter how many times we put out a big reel, it never gets picked up. Never. But you throw out a little reel with the smallest piece of bait you can find, and it gets smoked every time. You know, people will intentionally not fish it because of what it can happen off that corner. They don't want their gear getting trashed. Me and some of the other troublemakers that like to go out there and mess with the fish, we'll definitely put a small reel out there and still test that theory out, and it'll always hook up something. So, not every trip, but for the most part, 9 times out of 10 that we have put something off that back corner, it has hooked up something pretty nasty. So, again, thank you for enjoying Storytelling Thursday. It was a nice, short, little, simple story, but I've got something else in mind. And what it is we may be doing some live calls with some older generation fishermen that have fished the pier many years before we have. So, with them, I mean, they've done using a surfboard to kayak out their bait, paddle out their bait, or they would use an inner tube and, you know, put some fins on and paddle out their bait. And it amazes me in the time of their shark fishing, when there was so many more sharks prevalent in our waters, that none of them ever got bit, which is crazy. I mean, nowadays, I know we've got guys that are taking baits out on a kayak, get hit by a wave, the bait falls in the water, and as they're starting to take off to pull the bait up off the bottom, it gets picked up in seconds. And that just, it amazes me how things work out between then and now. But now we're supposedly got a lot more sharks in our waters. So, I don't know, it's just food for thought. You know, it is the saltwater environment, and you can't always depend or depict what you're going to catch when you're going out there. And actually, I was talking to another soldier the other day, and he goes, yeah, you know, I like fishing, but I don't like to go for the big stuff, and you know, I kind of keep, you know, doing the little baits and the smaller keeper fish. I said, yeah, me too. I said, I normally put a little placard on my bait and tell the big fish not to bite my bait when I'm throwing it out there. He kind of looked at me and I was like, I'm just kidding, bro. You know, it's fishing. At the end of the day, you cannot determine what's going to end up hitting your hook. There is places where you can go, and yes, you can throw baits and you're targeting a specific species of fish, but a lot of times you're going to catch a lot of bycatch on the way. A lot of times bycatch are bigger than what you're actually trying to catch. So that's why it's called fishing, guys. Just a little insight. All right, y'all have a good one. Have a good weekend.